There's something subtle, almost invisible, that's draining you, and the most unsettling part is, it isn't even yours. It enters quietly through a conversation, a glance, or a screen you didn't think twice about. You start feeling heavy, disconnected, restless. You call it fatigue, stress, or mood swings. But deep down, something whispers that this doesn't belong to you. What you're feeling is borrowed energy, emotional weight that never originated from your being, yet somehow found a home inside you. Most people never notice this. They move through life carrying emotional residues that are not their own, mistaking them for personality traits. They say, "I'm just tired lately," or "I'm feeling low," without realizing they've absorbed the atmosphere of the people, places, and screens surrounding them. Few ever see it for what it truly is, energetic contamination. But you, perhaps, have started to sense it. You've begun noticing the strange heaviness that appears after certain conversations, or the unease that grows after scrolling endlessly through other people's emotions online. You feel drained not because of what you did, but because of what you absorbed. If this feels like truth to you, stay exactly where you are and subscribe the channel, because what you're about to understand will change how you move through the world forever. You see, the human mind is porous. It's designed to connect, to empathize, to mirror. Our nervous systems are constantly tuning into the frequencies around us, reading faces, tones, silences, micro-expressions. This ability is what allows love, compassion, and art to exist. But when this sensitivity goes unguarded, empathy becomes absorption. You start collecting other people's emotional fragments like dust on a mirror. Every day you unconsciously take on the fear of a friend, the anxiety of a partner, the digital despair of a stranger's post. Slowly, your own reflection disappears beneath layers of someone else's sorrow, and because no one ever taught us how to distinguish what's ours from what's theirs, we grow up carrying psychic clutter. We confuse compassion with obligation, presence with surrender, empathy with emotional theft. You think being a good person means holding space for everyone's pain, but you can't hold what was never meant for you. You cannot heal others by losing yourself. You cannot serve light if your own flame keeps dimming. You cannot carry every emotion and still claim your peace. You might have noticed this when you wake up feeling heavy for no clear reason, or when you walk into a room and instantly sense the tension lingering in the air. You may leave certain conversations feeling smaller, emptier, unsure of yourself. You may notice your energy shift after being around people who always complain, criticize, or drain. What you are experiencing is the silent exchange of energy, the invisible language that passes between souls. Most people don't realize that emotions are contagious. They linger in spaces, in tones, in unspoken glances. You absorb them without consent. Like smoke entering your lungs, they settle into your system, shaping your thoughts and moods until you can no longer tell what belongs to you. And because this process is so subtle, it feels natural, like you're just having a bad day. But that day might not be yours at all. We live in an overstimulated world that constantly demands your attention, your compassion, your reaction. The more sensitive you are, the more easily you become a vessel for this unseen traffic of emotion. And yet that sensitivity is not a weakness, it is the beginning of awareness. Once you start noticing what isn't yours, you begin the slow, powerful process of returning to yourself. So the real mystery is not how to stop feeling so much. The mystery is how to remain open without drowning. How to stay connected without becoming consumed. Few people ever find that balance because they never question what they've absorbed. But those who do, those who look deeper, begin to see something extraordinary. Because once you recognize that not everything you feel is yours, you begin to reclaim your energy, your peace, and your power. And that's where this journey truly begins. But to reclaim your energy, you must first understand why you lost it and how the world quietly teaches you to absorb what doesn't belong to you. To understand why you carry what isn't yours, you must first see how deeply the human system was designed to mirror the world. Your nervous system doesn't live in isolation. It reads, imitates, and absorbs constantly. Long before words existed, empathy was a survival code, a way for tribes to sense danger, harmony, belonging. You learn to feel others to stay safe. You learn to tune your body to the mood of the group, because connection meant protection. This ancient sensitivity still lives within you, but now it has no boundaries. What once helped you survive has become the very thing that exhausts you. You were taught to care but not to cleanse. You were taught to feel but not to filter. Every time you enter a room, your body becomes an antenna. You unconsciously scan for safety through subtle frequencies. Tone, posture, eye movement, silence. You are like an emotional Wi-Fi receiver, picking up signals that were never yours to decode. You absorb, you adapt, you ache, you absorb again. The more empathetic you are, the more you tune in, and the less you realize how much of what you feel has nothing to do with your own experience. But the problem isn't just sensitivity. It's the system you live in. We exist in a world addicted to projection, a society that throws its emotions outward and calls it expression. Every platform, every conversation, every post is an invitation to carry someone else's pain. People rarely process what they feel, they discharge it, hoping someone else will hold it. You scroll through oceans of unresolved emotion, rage, envy, grief, self-pity, each one reaching for your attention, your empathy, your energy. This is the psychic economy of the modern world, everyone trying to unload what they cannot contain, and you, being open, kind, and aware, unknowingly become the storage. You hold the unspoken sadness of your friend, the silent resentment of a coworker, the despair of strangers whose pain leaks through a screen. It's not your fault. You were trained to believe that being a good person means being endlessly available emotionally, mentally, energetically. But what no one told you is that every act of unguarded empathy leaves a trace, a psychic fingerprint from every hand that has touched your energy. You absorb, you adapt, you ache. Most people drown in this invisible sea without realizing it. They call it burnout, depression, or chronic fatigue, but underneath it is absorption, layers of unprocessed emotion that don't belong to them. They medicate symptoms without ever questioning the source. But you've started noticing the waves. You've started realizing that your exhaustion isn't random, that your mood swings are not always your own. You feel it when you wake up after a long day of listening to others. You feel it when your peace collapses after scrolling through the chaos of the world. You feel it when your inner light dims without reason. The moment you see that not every emotion you feel is your own, that's the beginning of freedom. This realization cracks the illusion of self-identification with borrowed pain. You start to observe your emotions instead of drowning in them. You notice how other people's moods infect the air around you, how words carry vibration, how silence holds tension. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you know, you cannot go back to blindness. Awareness changes your chemistry. But awareness also comes with discomfort, because suddenly you start seeing the truth everywhere. You realize how people unconsciously discharge their fears into conversations. You notice how collective anxiety hangs in offices, how unresolved grief echoes through families, how guilt hides behind kindness, and you recognize how easily you've been absorbing all of it, as though your worth depended on it. You absorb, you adapt, you ache. This is where most people doubt themselves. They begin to wonder, am I too sensitive, too emotional? No. Imagine standing in a crowded city square with thousands of invisible signals. Wi-Fi, radio, Bluetooth, all crossing at once. You can't see them, yet they shape your reality. Emotional energy works the same way. Every thought, every word, every suppressed feeling becomes a signal in the field. Some pass through you, others attach, and over time, without boundaries, you become a walking archive of other people's unresolved lives. You absorb, you adapt, you ache, and slowly, you mistake that ache for identity. But here's the liberation. The moment you start recognizing this, your awareness begins to cleanse. The simple act of naming what is happening breaks its hold. Once you realize that the heaviness you carry is not yours, you stop personalizing it. You start observing it, and observation itself is purification. Awareness burns through absorption. When you truly see how conditioned you've been to carry what isn't yours, compassion takes on a new meaning. It's no longer about holding everyone's pain, it's about seeing their pain clearly without taking it inside you. Real empathy isn't absorption, it's witnessing without drowning. It's presence with boundaries. It's love that doesn't cost your sanity. And from this clarity, something profound begins to unfold. You realize that what drains you isn't love, it's identification. You've been mistaking connection for merging, kindness for sacrifice, empathy for depletion. But once you learn to feel without carrying, to listen without absorbing, to care without collapsing, you begin to reclaim your original energy. Because the truth is, you cannot save others by losing yourself. You cannot heal the world by absorbing its wounds. You cannot carry the pain of everyone you meet and still remain whole. But awareness alone isn't enough. Once you see how deeply you've absorbed the world, you face a harder question. How do you release it? How do you return to yourself without shutting down your heart? At first, you'll feel the need to disappear from certain people, certain places, certain conversations. It will confuse you, even frighten you. The world will tell you you're isolating, withdrawing, becoming cold. But that isn't what's happening. What's happening is preservation. You're beginning the sacred work of separation, not from others, but from the energies that have lived rent-free in your system for far too long. This phase feels quiet on the surface but seismic underneath. You start noticing what no longer resonates: the forced laughter, the shallow talk, the endless noise. Suddenly the things that once distracted you begin to irritate you. You crave silence, solitude, stillness. You want to sit alone, not because you've given up on life, but because you can finally hear yourself again. This is not avoidance, this is repair. You begin the slow, meticulous work of sorting through what's yours and what's not. It's like sifting through 1,000 voices inside your mind and realizing most of them don't belong to you. You start listening differently, not to respond, but to feel what lingers afterward. When the conversation ends, you sit in the residue and ask, does this feeling belong to me? Slowly, piece by piece, you begin to return the energy that was never yours to carry. In this stillness, the truth reveals itself. You see how much of your identity was shaped by absorption. The borrowed sadness, the mirrored anxiety, the guilt that was never native to your soul. You realize how many of your reactions were conditioned responses, how often your empathy turned into self-erasure. And so you stop rushing to fix others. You stop taking responsibility for everyone's storm. You stop mistaking depletion for love. They will not understand. They will call you distant. They will call you cold. But you are not cold. You are clearing the static. You are learning how to live without carrying the noise of others inside you. This is the sacred detox of the soul. There will be days when you feel empty, stripped bare. The energy that once filled you, even if it was toxic, has left. You'll feel a kind of silence that almost aches. But this emptiness is not a void. It's space being made for what's real. Think of it like rinsing off invisible dust after walking through the world. For the first time, your soul is breathing clean air. You may feel guilty for needing distance, for not showing up the way you once did. But guilt is just the echo of old conditioning. Remember this. You were taught to overextend, to please, to heal others by absorbing their pain. You were never taught to protect your energy. You were never taught that self-preservation is an act of love. When you step back, the world might resist. Some will take your silence personally. Others will accuse you of changing. And they'll be right. You are changing. You're no longer available for the emotional chaos that once defined your identity. You're learning to choose peace over participation. That's not rejection. That's evolution. This transformation is not glamorous. It's raw, humbling, and often lonely. You'll shed borrowed skins, identities built around others' expectations. You'll outgrow relationships that fed on your empathy. You'll stand in front of mirrors and see a stranger, only to realize that stranger is who you were before you started carrying the world. This is the cocoon, the sacred collapse before the flight. Inside that cocoon, you dissolve. Everything you thought you were, the roles, the responsibilities, the reflex to fix, begins to melt away. You become fluid, undefined. It's disorienting, yes, but necessary. Because only in this dissolution can your essence re-emerge untainted. Like a caterpillar surrendering to the transformation, you too must let go of form to discover freedom. This is not weakness, it is sacred strength. The courage to stop carrying what was never meant for you. It takes immense bravery to unlearn the reflex of emotional caretaking, to walk away from conversations that drain, to choose silence over validation. You are not becoming selfish, you are becoming sovereign. You are no longer living as an emotional sponge. You are becoming a conscious filter, choosing what enters, what stays, and what must leave. There will be loss, yes, but notice what happens in that space of absence. Clarity begins to rise. You start to hear your own intuition, the quiet voice that was buried beneath everyone else's noise. You begin to recognize your authentic energy, its rhythm, its temperature, its truth. And with every breath you reclaim another piece of yourself that was scattered among others. You will still feel deeply. That part doesn't vanish. It refines. Empathy remains. But it's no longer reckless. You can feel without absorbing, witness without drowning, love without losing yourself. Your compassion evolves from compulsion to choice. That is what freedom feels like. So if you find yourself pulling away, craving quiet, needing space, trust it. You are not broken. You are cleansing. You are not cold. You are clearing. You are not lost. You are coming home. And when the noise fades, something extraordinary happens. You start to remember the sound of your own soul. But once you've found that sound, your true frequency, the next step is learning how to live in the world again, without losing it, and that changes everything. Now comes the gentle return, not to who you were, but to who you've become. The silence that once felt empty now feels full. The solitude that once felt heavy now feels holy. You have walked through the fog of borrowed emotion, through the ache of release, through the slow unraveling of everything that wasn't yours. And now what remains is clarity, pure, unshakable, luminous. Give yourself permission to release what isn't yours, to stop carrying the moods of others, to stop apologizing for your clarity. You don't owe the world your energy to prove your goodness. You are allowed to protect your peace without explanation. You are allowed to walk away from conversations that pull you down, to decline invitations that drain your light, to choose stillness when the world demands performance. From this silence you'll rise lighter, clearer, free from energetic residue. The fatigue that once wrapped around your body begins to lift. The anxious thoughts that once looped endlessly begin to settle. You begin to trust your own rhythm again, the way your breath expands, the way your mind opens, the way your spirit hums when it's finally unburdened. You'll still move among the sleeping, but you won't fall back asleep. You'll engage, but not absorb. You'll listen, but you won't take it in. You'll stand in a crowded room and remain untouched by its noise. Your energy will stop leaking outward. It will circulate, contained, vibrant, alive. And something remarkable happens when you reach this place. Your very presence begins to shift the energy of others. You don't have to heal them. You don't have to speak. Your stillness becomes medicine. Your groundedness becomes a mirror for what peace looks like. People will feel calmer around you, not because you've absorbed their chaos, but because you've chosen not to. You were never too sensitive. You were simply too awake in a world that forgot how to feel. Your sensitivity was never the problem. It was the gift, the instrument that could perceive what others ignored. Now that you've learned how to protect it, it becomes your superpower. You cannot keep carrying what was never meant for you. You cannot heal others by wounding yourself. You cannot awaken while holding someone else's dream. There is a time to empathize and a time to let go. There is a time to listen and a time to return to silence. And when you honor that rhythm, you live in harmony with yourself. Like returning home after carrying someone else's luggage for years, you set down the weight and feel the ground again. Like sunlight cutting through fog, you begin to see life clearly, unfiltered, unclouded. Every breath feels like truth. Every step feels like freedom. So release what was never yours. Breathe back your own energy and walk gently, not burdened, but bright. Move through the world as someone who knows what peace feels like. Speak less but mean more. Love deeply but wisely. Give but never bleed. Because in this new clarity you no longer seek to absorb. You radiate. You illuminate. You simply are.